Hey guys, tonight we step right into the smoke-filled air of late summer, 480 BCE. You're standing on the dusty road outside Athens, cicadas still buzzing despite the tension, as word spreads that King Xerxes of Persia has broken through at Thermopylae. The narrow pass, once guarded by Leonidas and his 300 Spartans, lies behind the Persians now, and their army, hundreds of thousands strong by ancient bragging standards, is pouring into central Greece. The Athenians around you shuffle nervously, clutching their few belongings, children clinging to mothers, old men staring with glassy eyes at the Acropolis rising above the city. The smell of olives and sheep hides mixes with the sharper scent of fear, and honestly you probably won't survive this, unless you're lucky enough to follow the evacuation orders. Before we plunge deeper, this is the burning of Athens, 480 BCE, Xerxes' revenge. If you want more stories where ancient cities go up in flames, sometimes literally, then make sure you subscribe and keep watching till the end. Drop a comment with your location and local time. Let's see how far across the world Athens' fire reaches tonight. And when the ruins settle, drift into sleep, knowing history always rebuilds, even from ashes. So, you grip the rough leather strap of your satchel and squint toward the hills. Reports ripple through the crowd. The Persians have already torched Plataea, they've seized Boeotia, and the only thing between their army and Athens is time. Themistocles, the sharp-tongued general, who's convinced everyone that naval power is Athens' lifeline, is urging evacuation. He knows the city cannot be defended by walls alone. You imagine the enemy, archers in scale armor, cavalry kicking up dust, engineers dragging siege towers. Against that machine, Athens feels more like tinder than fortress. The elders mutter about omens. Some recall the oracle at Delphi's chilling words. Only the wooden walls shall stand. People argue about what it means. Is it the Acropolis' palisade, or, as Themistocles insists, the wooden walls are ships, triremes ready to fight in the straits? The debate isn't academic, it's life or death. You glance at the Piraeus harbor, where sleek vessels bob against the tide, sails furled, oars stacked neatly, each one holds the slim promise of survival. Athens is buzzing with frantic preparation. Carved stones that once built prideful temples now lie abandoned. Goats wander through lanes, and carts creak under hastily loaded furniture. The city that boasted of democracy, theatres, and philosophy now resembles an ant colony under attack. The assembly has decided men of fighting age must stay with the fleet, but women, children, and the elderly are to flee. Themistocles has sent envoys to Aegina, Troezen, and Salamis to shelter them. You watch neighbors argue over which shrine to visit last, which god to beg for safety. Even as reason slips, hope clings. Far off, dust rises, a reminder of Persia's pace. The scouts describe rows upon rows of soldiers, maids, Scythians, Egyptians, Indians, all gathered under one monarch who demands submission. Xerxes, seated on a golden throne carried by attendants, has vowed to punish Athens for daring to burn Sardis during the Ionian Revolt. Decades earlier, you hear that story retold tonight, as if it happened yesterday, how the Athenians, supporting their Ionian cousins, marched into Asia and torched the Persian satrapal capital. Xerxes never forgot. This, everyone whispers, is the payback. Walking through the marketplace, you see priests scrambling to remove sacred objects. Small wooden idols are carried in baskets, offerings stuffed into sacks. Yet many gods must remain, rooted in marble and bronze, destined to face Persian fire. The Acropolis gleams in twilight, its temples serene in their ignorance. You can almost hear the Persian soldiers laughing as they approach, imagining their torches licking those stones. There's panic, but also strange calm. Themistocles' voice cuts through the noise. He reminds citizens that Athens' power lies not in walls but in men at the oars. He has pushed through a grand naval policy, funded by the silver mines at Laurium. And now hundreds of triremes are ready, long, slender, built for speed and ramming. They are Athens' answer to Persia's vast land forces. You can almost feel the planks of a trireme under your feet already, the salt spray on your lips, the rhythmic drum commanding rowers to strike in unison. Still, leaving Athens feels like abandoning your soul. This city is not just stone. It's identity, memory, pride. People whisper curses at Themistocles, even as they obey, accusing him of cowardice. But he insists that to save Athens, one must first let it burn. We fight at sea, Not in streets, he repeats, jaw tight. You catch his eyes for a fleeting second, sharp, restless, convinced he's right, but carrying the weight of thousands who disagree. Night falls. Fires crackle as families prepare for departure. Dogs bark nervously, chickens squawk, shoved into baskets. You help an old woman climb onto a cart, bound for Salamis, her thin hands trembling as she clutches a jar of olive oil, her only wealth. Children fall asleep on father's shoulders, unaware their playground will soon be ash. The harbour fills with bodies, voices rising in a chorus of desperation. Every wave slaps the docks like a countdown. As you drift toward the ships, you can't help one final glance at the Acropolis. Its silhouette is black against the moon. Statues of Athena and other gods watching silently. You think of the oracle again. The wooden walls. Are they ships or barricades? Tomorrow you'll know. For now, the city of Athens is left exposed, waiting for Xerxes' shadow to fall, and when it does, history will mark the night with fire. The dawn after your restless night arrives with shouts echoing across Piraeus. The evacuation of Athens is no longer a plan, whispered in assemblies. It's a thunderous reality. Hundreds of people surge toward the harbour, carrying bundles of clothing, jars of grain, and a few lucky goats tethered to wagons. The air smells of brine and sweat, thick with urgency. You squeeze forward with the tide of bodies, listening to shipmasters bellowing at families to board quickly, their voices hoarse from hours of repeating the same orders. Themistocles moves among the throng like a conductor of chaos, snapping at triarchs, cajoling hesitant citizens, reassuring frightened women. His cloak flaps in the sea breeze, his hand raised constantly to point out which boats still have room. He is equal parts general and father figure now. Some Athenians curse him coward, traitor, abandoner of sacred stones, but more obey. They see the glint of Persian spears in their nightmares. They remember Plataea burning. Better to risk the seas than face Xerxes' infantry. Salamis lies just a short sail away, its green slopes visible across the strait. Ferries and fishing boats crowd alongside triremes, pressed into service to carry refugees. You step onto a rocking deck, the wooden planks groaning beneath dozens of feet. A boy vomits over the side before the ship even pushes off, and his mother mutters a prayer to Poseidon. Rowers dip their oars, muscles taut, and suddenly the ship surges forward, water frothing at its prow. You grip the side as Athens recedes behind you. The fleet grows into a spectacle, hundreds of ships darting across the strait, sails unfurled where the wind favors them, oars striking the water in rhythm elsewhere. Children gape at dolphins leaping alongside, as if the sea itself welcomes their exodus. Yet the tension never leaves. Every splash of an oar could be the sound of Persians arriving. Every gull's cry feels like an omen. You imagine Xerxes' cavalry already thundering into Attica, raising dust over olive groves. Themistocles gathers his generals aboard the flagship to review orders. His strategy depends on luring Xerxes' navy into the narrow straits, where the Persian superior numbers will mean nothing. But to do that, Athens must first be sacrificed. His words are blunt, his tone clip. You overhear fragments. The city must burn wooden walls. Salamis is the trap. His confidence is unnerving, like a gambler who's already seen the dice roll. At Salamis, the island's small towns swell with refugees. Women clutch babies as they scramble onto rocky beaches. Men drag bundles inland. Priests set up makeshift shrines. You watch as statues of Athena, hastily loaded on carts, are wheeled toward caves for safekeeping. But many treasures are left behind in Athens. The Parthenon still gleams with offerings. The Erechtheion still houses its olive wood statue of the goddess. You know the Persians will find them. The island itself groans under the weight of newcomers. Fishermen's huts overflow, courtyards fill with strangers, and every patch of ground becomes a campsite. Fires blaze along the shoreline, smoke coiling up. The sound of wailing children merges with the beat of hammers, as carpenters scramble to repair boats for defense. Themistocles inspects the triremes again, ensuring every ship is manned, every oar accounted for. Even old men and teenagers are pressed into service. Athens' survival now floats entirely on these wooden hulls. From Salamis you can still see Athens across the strait. The Acropolis rises, serene and proud, as if unaware of its fate. Some women kneel on the rocks, arms outstretched, begging Athena to protect her own temple. Others weep quietly, clutching fragments of home pottery shards, family heirlooms, olive oil jars. For them, the sea is not safety but exile. You feel the weight of it too. Your birthplace, your market stalls, your neighborhood, soon reduced to ash. Themistocles, though, speaks of opportunity. He tells sailors gathered around fires that Athens is more than stone. It is people, spirit, courage. The city sails with us, he declares. His words ripple like sparks, igniting nods and murmurs of agreement. A few even laugh at his audacity, because laughter is easier than despair. He reminds them of Marathon, a generation ago, when Athenians shocked the Persians with victory. If they could run across plains to defeat Darius's men, surely they can row across water to humble Xerxes. Meanwhile, the Persians march steadily closer. Scouts report villages smoking, livestock seized, wells fouled. Every day, the black tide creeps nearer. From Salamis, columns of dust betray their movements, and at night, the glow of campfires dots the Attic plain like stars fallen to earth. Rumors spread that Xerxes has set up his throne on a hill overlooking Athens, ready to watch its destruction, as if attending a theatre performance. You picture him reclining, golden crown gleaming, while your city crackles. The thought makes your stomach churn. You overhear a sailor joke nervously. At least when the Persians burn Athens, the mosquitoes might finally leave. The men laugh louder than necessary, clinging to humor as armor. You smile faintly, because it's either that or crime. Another mutters about Xerxes' massive pontoon bridge at Hellespont, shaking his head at the arrogance. He whipped the sea when it broke his first bridge, the sailor says. Whipped the sea? Who does that? Everyone chuckles again, because imagining the great king flogging water is too absurd not to. Still, as night cloaks Salamis, fear thickens. Families huddle together, staring at Athens across the dark water. You can almost hear the city's silence, a silence waiting to be broken by the tramp of foreign boots. Themistocles stands apart, gazing toward the Acropolis. His lips move in what could be prayer, or maybe calculation. You wonder if even he doubts. The ships are ready, the people are hidden, and the city lies exposed. All that remains is the final step, abandoning Athens, fully to its fate. Tomorrow, or perhaps the next day, Xerxes will arrive, and when he does, no citizen will be left to greet him. Only statues, stones, and the cold defiance of an empty city. The morning mist hangs heavy over Salamis, and from the island's rocky shoreline you squint toward the mainland. Beyond the gleam of the water, Attica spreads out, dry and sun-baked, with olive groves scattered across the hillsides. And there, faint but undeniable, you see the movement of Persia's advance. Lines of soldiers, thousands upon thousands, ripple southward, like a dark tide. Cavalry ride in front, their hooves striking dust into the sky, while wagons laden with supplies creak along behind. Banners whip in the wind, embroidered with the emblems of countless nations forced into Xerxes' service. It is less an army than a moving continent. Word reaches Salamis quickly. The Persians have entered Attica. They march through Thespia. Plataea already lies in ruins, and villages scatter before them. Smoke rises in distant columns, proof of homes torched and granaries emptied. For those watching from safety across the strait, it is like watching their own funerals play out in slow motion. The island refugees murmur prayers, clutching amulets of Athena, Apollo, or whichever god they believe still listens. Children ask when they can go home, and mothers answer with silence. Closer now, the Persian army moves with a terrifying rhythm. You picture the foot soldiers, spearmen in quilted armor, archers with recurved bows, cavalry armed with javelins. Beside them march engineers carrying ladders, axes and scaling gear, as if the whole campaign is one long construction project of destruction. Above it all looms the presence of Xerxes himself. Though you can't see him directly, every rumor paints him vividly. Seated under a parasol, surrounded by guards, fanned by attendants, scribes recording each step. He is both king and god to his men. To the Athenians, he is vengeance incarnate. Refugees at Salamis whisper bitterly about what awaits the city. Some insist Xerxes will plunder, but spare the temples, hoping to claim legitimacy over Greece's gods. Others argue he will burn everything to cinders, just as Athens once torched Sardis. You overhear an old fisherman mutter, "He'll make a lesson of us." Stones don't beg for mercy. The words settle like ash in your chest. Back in Athens itself, The few who refuse to flee remain. Stubborn elders, poor farmers with no means of escape, priests bound to their sacred duties. They linger in hollow streets. They watch as dust rises from the horizon, knowing it heralds their doom. For them, the city is not a possession to be abandoned, but a soul to be defended. They fortify the Acropolis, dragging stones and timber to reinforce the gates. Their weapons are few, their chances slimmer still, yet to them, dying among Athena's temples is preferable to exile. From Salamis, the sight of empty Athens is haunting. Once lively with markets and debates, it now sits hollow, its silence louder than any shout. Dogs bark in alleys, goats wander untended. The air carries the faint scent of olives left unharvested. It is as though the city itself holds its breath, waiting for the storm to break. You imagine Persian boots stomping through the agora, their laughter echoing where philosophers once argued. The refugees can't look away. They line the shores of Salamis, eyes locked on their homeland. Some wail, others remain eerily quiet, their grief too deep for sound. Themistocles tries to distract them, calling for more preparations at the fleet, demanding sailors practice maneuvers, but even he must glance toward the mainland, jaw tightening as the inevitable approaches. As the Persians press closer, you sense the scale of their power. They do not move like raiders quick and chaotic, but like an iron machine. Roads widen before them, bridges rise, supplies flow from behind. They burn what they cannot carry, leaving nothing useful for the Greeks. Each step southward is both conquest and punishment. For Xerxes, the march into Attica is not just about strategy, it is theatre. He wants the Greeks to see, to tremble, to know resistance is futile. Rumors trickle in from scouts who sneak close to the Persian vanguard. They describe the glitter of bronze and iron, the sight of war elephants brought from India, the endless rows of supply animals. They claim Xerxes' tent is vast as a palace, guarded by immortals clad in golden robes. One scout swears he saw scribes already drafting the proclamation of Athens' fall, as if history itself must be written before it happens. Whether true or exaggerated, the effect is the same. Dread ripples through every listener. Themistocles alone seems energized by the danger. You hear him argue with fellow generals. Let them burn Athens. Let them grow arrogant. The more certain they feel, the sweeter their defeat at Salamis. His words slice with conviction, but his eyes flicker with something more complicated. Does he truly believe sacrifice is necessary, or has he gambled too far to turn back? Either way, he commits, steering the fleet's destiny while the city behind you prepares to suffer. At night, the glow of Persian campfires becomes visible across the plain. From Salamis, it looks like a second constellation spread over the earth, bright and merciless. The Athenians huddle close to their own fires, whispering of Marathon, trying to summon courage from the past. Some cling to Themistocles' vision of naval triumph, others feel only despair. You lean against a rough pine trunk, staring at the mainland's flickering lights, and wonder which will be remembered longer, Athens' fall or its rebirth. By morning the sound reaches you. A low, distant hum at first, boots on earth, carts grinding, horses snorting. The Persians are in Attica now, their army rolling south toward the heart of Greece. Athens lies before them, deserted but proud, like prey that refuses to flee. You hold your breath as the first fires catch on the horizon. Smoke curls upward, smudging the sky, proof that Xerxes' hand has reached the outskirts, and though you are safe on Salamis, the sight burns just as painfully as if you stood amid the flames yourself. The sun climbs higher, casting sharp light across the Attic plain, and from your vantage point, on Salamis, the sight is unforgettable. Persian banners cresting the ridges, columns of soldiers spilling into the valleys, and finally the glittering armor of the immortals. As they march toward Athens, the dust clouds of their advance swirl so thick they blot the horizon, and you realize the city has only hours left before it is swallowed whole. The first wave enters through the countryside. Farmers' huts, already abandoned, are ripped apart for firewood. Olive groves, symbols of Athens' wealth, and Athena's gift herself, are hacked down, their trunks split for torches. You imagine the crack of axes echoing through the hills. Even the bees, keepers of Attica's famous honey, scatter in confusion as smoke and fire chase them from their hives. The Persians press forward like a tide, indifferent to the land's sacredness. As they near the city, the silence of Athens becomes eerie. Streets that once hummed with merchants, debates and laughter now lie vacant, shutters swinging in the wind. Dogs wander aimlessly, barking at strangers who do not belong. Persian scouts creep through the agora, marveling at its statues, its stowers, its empty stalls. One kicks over a clay pot, shattering it across the marble floor. For them, it must feel like discovering a treasure chest left open, its owners fled, yet not everyone left. On the Acropolis, a band of defenders remains. Mostly older men and priests too stubborn to abandon Athena's home. They barricade the steep paths with timbers and stones, hurl insults at the advancing Persians, and beat drums in defiance. From Salamis, you can hear faint echoes of their chants carried by the wind. They cling to the prophecy of the wooden walls, insisting it means the Acropolis's palisade will hold. Their courage is fierce, but their numbers pitiful. Xerxes himself approaches with measured grandeur. His throne is set up on a nearby hill, so he can watch events unfold. Attendants shade him with parasols, scribes prepare tablets to record the city's fall, and heralds fan out to announce his victory. For Xerxes, this is not a battle, it is a performance. The city that dared to burn Sardis now lies helpless before him, and he intends to savor every moment. Persian troops pour into the lower city, methodically searching for valuables. They seize grain from storehouses, smash amphorae of wine, and drive off any livestock too slow to flee. Some soldiers gaze in awe at the temples and statues, their foreign eyes dazzled by Greek craftsmanship. Others laugh cruelly, mocking the empty streets, pretending to debate in the agora as if mimicking the Athenians' famous assemblies. The mocking grows louder as they realize no citizens will stop them. But soon their attention turns to the Acropolis, looming above like a stubborn sentinel. Flames lick at the base of the hill as Persians set fire to houses. Yet the defenders on the heights remain. They pelt invaders with stones, roll down logs, and shoot arrows when they can. For a brief moment, the spirit of Athens lives on, perched defiantly atop its sacred rock. You picture those old men, hair white but eyes burning, calling on Athena to guide their hands. Xerxes, watching from his throne, grows impatient. He orders his men to storm the Acropolis. Ladders are raised, shields locked together, and arrows darken the sky. The defenders push back fiercely, but the Persians' sheer numbers overwhelm. One by one the ladders reach the walls, and men scramble upward like ants on a hive. Resistance grows desperate, stones hurled until hands bleed, spears thrust with trembling arms, but inevitability cannot be stopped. Finally, a group of Persians finds a hidden path along the steep northern slope. Slipping through, they flank the defenders. Chaos erupts atop the sacred hill. The remaining Athenians are cut down, their cries echoing off marble. Smoke billows as torches are flung into wooden beams. The shrines of the gods, once gleaming in the sun, now catch fire. Flames roar skyward, consuming the Acropolis. From Salamis you see the column of smoke twisting into the heavens, a black scar against the blue. The sight freezes you. The Parthenon's precursor, the old temple of Athena Polias, bursts into flame. Statues crack and topple as heat warps them. The gold and ivory offerings, painstakingly crafted over generations, melt into puddles. Even the sacred olive tree of Athena, planted in legend by the goddess herself, is scorched. The Acropolis becomes a pyre, Athens a defiance, swallowed by fire. The Persian soldiers revel in their triumph. They drag down statues, laugh as they split sacred vessels, and even tether horses inside ruined sanctuaries. One soldier, amused, places a Persian cap on the head of a fallen Greek idol, mocking the gods. To them, this destruction is not just conquest, it is humiliation, a message that no deity can protect Athens from Xerxes. On Salamis, the refugees scream, wail, or fall into stunned silence. Mothers cover their children's eyes, though it is too late. The vision of their burning home is seared into every heart. Old men beat their chests, cursing both Persians and fate. Themistocles watches grimly, his face tight. He whispers something, maybe a prayer, maybe a vow, but does not look away. To him, the destruction is both tragedy and opportunity. The Persians, drunk on triumph, may soon stumble into his trap. The night sky glows red with Athens's funeral pyre. Smoke drifts across the water, choking, acrid, heavy with the scent of burned wood, stone and flesh. You taste it on your tongue, bitter and unforgettable. The Athenians on Salamis cling to each other, torn between despair and fury. Some vow revenge, others collapse in hopelessness. Yet amid the grief, a strange fire of resolve kindles. If Athens is gone, then vengeance must rise in its place. The Persians, meanwhile, celebrate among the ruins. Fires blaze not only from temples, but from their own victory feasts. Soldiers dance, drink stolen wine, and boast of their triumph. They believe the war already won. Athens lies shattered, the Acropolis smouldering, its gods disgraced. What resistance could possibly remain? They laugh at the thought of Greek ships bobbing feebly on the sea. But as you watch the flames consume the heart of Greece, you feel a different certainty. The city may be ash, but the people live. Their spirit has fled across the straits, onto ships, into oars, into the waiting hands of sailors. Xerxes holds Athens as stones, but he does not yet hold Athens as soul. And soon enough, on the waters between here and there, that soul will strike back. The smoke from the Acropolis lingers for days, a black veil that drifts across the strait and hangs over Salamis like an omen. Even when the wind shifts, the smell of charred stone and cedar beams still clings to your nostrils. You can almost taste the gods' temples, burned down to rubble. From your perch on the island shore, you squint at the gutted skyline of Athens, the proud Acropolis reduced to jagged ruins. Somewhere in that smouldering mass lies the shrine of Thermopylae, its sacred olive tree scorched, its worshippers silenced. The goddess of wisdom has been mocked, her home turned into an open wound. But in ruins lies a paradox. Instead of breaking Athens' will, the destruction seems to steal it. Refugees huddled along the Salamis beaches whisper of revenge. We'll rebuild, one man mutters through clenched teeth, clutching a charred scrap of wood, salvaged from a burned house. Athens doesn't die, it waits. Another swears that every Persian ship must sink as payment. For women and children, the talk is softer, more uncertain, but their eyes reflect the same resolve. Losing homes is one thing, losing identity is another, and identity cannot be burned away. The Persians, meanwhile, treat Athens as both camp and playground. Soldiers lead horses into ruined temples, their hooves clattering on marble floors. Sacred vessels are melted down for trinkets. The charred remains of statues are mocked. One Persian is said to have stuck his tongue out at a blackened figure of Apollo. Another urinated against a broken column. To them, these are trophies. To the Athenians watching from across the water, it is sacrilege beyond forgiveness. For Xerxes, this is vengeance fulfilled. He had promised his empire retribution for Sardis, and now Athens smoulders in proof of his power. He sits on his throne atop a hill, overlooking the ruins, scribes recording his every word, generals praising his success. He imagines the message spreading across the world. The city that defied Persia has been erased. To him, this is history written in fire. Yet, Xerxes' triumph carries a flaw. By burning Athens so thoroughly, he believes the Greeks broken. He expects them to beg for terms, to submit like other cities before them. But across the straits, the Athenian fleet remains intact. Rowers sharpening oars, sailors repairing sails. The city's people are alive, their spirit tempered rather than extinguished. What Xerxes cannot grasp is that Athens has become unbound from its stones. Its true body now floats on water. The defenders who died on the Acropolis are remembered as martyrs. Word spreads quickly of their stand. The priests who refused to abandon the goddess, the elders who hurled stones until the last, the final cries as Persians poured over the walls. On Salamis, children whisper their names as if they were already legends. Parents tell the story at firesides, shaping grief into pride. Even Themistocles, hardened strategist though he is, bows his head when their sacrifice is mentioned. They bought us time, he says simply. Time for what? Time for the sea to decide the war. You wander the shoreline at night, staring at the faint red glow still smouldering in Athens. Every few minutes, a timber collapses with a hollow crash, echoing across the water. It feels like the heartbeat of a dying giant. Yet in that rhythm you also sense something else, an unfinished cadence, as if the city whispers, not yet, not done. The Persians may hold the stones, but the Athenians hold the oars. Meanwhile, the fleet grows restless. Rowers drill day after day, their backs glistening with sweat under the sun. The triremes slice through the water, practicing ramming maneuvers, turning sharply in the straits. Themistocles insists on repetition, knowing their only hope lies in precision. He walks the decks, barking instructions, then leans down to rowers, encouraging them with promises of revenge. Every stroke is for your home, he tells them. You imagine the burn in your shoulders as if you too grip an oar. The Persian navy, anchored near Phaleron, watches smugly, larger, more numerous, drawn from Egypt, Phoenicia, and Cilicia. They consider themselves unbeatable. They laugh at the thought of Greek fishing boats daring to challenge them. Yet they underestimate the trap. The narrow waters of Salamis favor maneuverability, not numbers. Themistocles knows this, and plays his hand carefully. He even spreads false messages to Xerxes, convincing him the Greeks are preparing to flee, luring him into the strait. From Salamis, you can see the Persian fleet at anchor, a forest of masts swaying. It is like staring at a second city floating on water instead of land. Their ships, adorned with bright paint and decorated prows, gleam with foreign splendor, but you also notice their bulk. They are wider, heavier, less suited to tight waters. Against them, the Greek triremes look like wolves waiting to dart among oxen. Still, fear gnaws at you. The Persians have numbers beyond counting. Every Greek child on Salamis knows their city is ash. If the fleet falls, so too will Greece. It is a weight almost unbearable. Yet, amid the despair, you catch glimpses of resilience. Women sing lullabies to children, their voices steady despite smoke hanging in the air. Old men sharpen spears even if they'll never wield them, muttering that someone must. Themistocles' speeches echo. Our wooden walls stand, and tomorrow they will strike. The irony of Athens burning is clear. Xerxes believes he has crushed a people, but in truth he has given them a fire no rain can quench. Every ember in the ruins glows inside the Athenians across the strait. The Acropolis may be ash, but the spirit of revenge roars like the wind that carries the smoke over Salamis. You feel it in your chest, a strange mixture of grief and exhilaration. Athens is dead, yes, but also reborn, hardened, sharpened for what comes next. Night falls again, and the stars blink coldly above the ruins. From the Persian camp, drums and flutes rise, celebration rolling across the dark water. They feast on stolen wine, confident the war is over. You imagine their laughter echoing through temples, their fires casting grotesque shadows on broken statues. Across the strait, Athenians sit silently, eyes fixed on the mainland. It is as if two worlds face each other across the narrow water, one bloated with triumph, the other sharpened by loss, and soon those worlds will collide. The fires still flicker among the ruins when Xerxes orders his generals to gather. Sitting on a gilded throne, positioned so he can survey both the smouldering Acropolis and the restless waters of Salamis, he radiates satisfaction. To him, Athens is nothing more than a lesson carved in flame. But to his men, it is also a staging ground. They spread out across the city's husk, pitching tents where homes once stood, hammering stakes into marble courtyards, and tethering horses to columns still warm from fire. For Persian soldiers, the occupation feels like a festival of conquest. They plunder what little remains, stripping copper fittings from doorways, breaking statues into pieces small enough to carry, prying gemstones from temple treasures. Amphorae of olive oil are rolled out of storerooms and smashed open, their contents pooling into the dust. The soldier dips his hand into the slick puddle and smears it across his beard, laughing at the thought that this was once Athens' wealth. Temples become stables. In the shadow of the ruined Erechtheion, cavalrymen tie reins to scorched pillars, the smell of manure rising where incense once drifted. Others build fires on temple floors, cooking stolen goats beneath blackened beams. Mocking songs echo through the ruins, foreign tongues twisting Greek words into parody. You imagine the gods, if they are watching, recoiling at the desecration. For Xerxes, this degradation serves a purpose. It is symbolic revenge, a mirror of what Athens once did to Sardis. He ensures messengers carry news of the burning across the empire. The proud Greek city has been humbled, its goddess shamed, its people scattered. He intends to prove that resistance to Persia is not only futile, but fatal. Yet, amid his triumph, unease stirs. The Athenians are gone, but not dead. From Salamis, their fleet remains intact, their spirit unbroken. Xerxes orders scouts to monitor the straits, But he cannot resist the lure of final victory. He wants the Greek fleet crushed as thoroughly as Athens itself. His generals advise caution, fight on open seas, where Persian numbers dominate. But Xerxes' pride blinds him. He envisions a decisive blow, one that will echo louder than the fires already smouldering behind him. Meanwhile, Persian soldiers lounging among ruins grow careless. They jeer at the empty statues, wearing stolen helmets and mocking Greek armor. Some even scrawl graffiti into temple walls, foreign names carved alongside the ruins of deities. At night, they drink stolen wine until their shouts ring through the city, confidence swelling with each gulp. They see no threat in the dark silhouette of Salamis across the water. To them, Athens is victory enough. From Salamis, the Athenians watch with clenched jaws. Smoke from the Acropolis still curls skyward, visible even under the moonlight. Children ask why the gods did not strike the Persians down with thunderbolts. Mothers hush them with soft words, though their own eyes brim with grief. Fathers, silent, sharpen blades or grip the sides of triremes, channeling fury into readiness. Each man knows his oar will soon answer the fire. Mephistocles, ever restless, walks the shoreline at night. He stares at the Persian campfires glowing among the ruins of Athens. His jaw set, to others. He says little, but his mind churns. He understands what Xerxes does not, that destruction breeds not surrender, but resolve. He plans, plots, and waits for the right tide. Let him grow arrogant, you hear him murmur, once, as though speaking to the gods themselves. The higher the flame, the harder the fall. By day, Persian patrols fan out across Attica, burning villages, seizing grain. Yet these raids accomplish little. The land has already been stripped by fleeing Athenians. Supplies spoil in the heat, soldiers grow restless, and the massive army becomes unwieldy. Feeding so many men, horses and servants in hostile territory strains even Persia's wealth. Still, Xerxes pushes forward, confident his numbers alone will drown the Greeks. One evening, you hear a Persian horn echo faintly across the strait. From your place, on Salamis, you see troops parading in the torchlight, their formations crisp, banners gleaming. It is intimidation, a reminder of Persian might, but it also reveals their vanity. They believe themselves invincible, blind to the trap tightening around them. Among the Athenians, resentment simmers hotter than grief. They whisper of the Acropolis defenders who fell, their sacrifice becoming rallying cry. Some swear they saw an olive sprout rise miraculously from the scorched tree of Athena, a sign that the goddess herself endures. Others point to omens in the sky, stars forming shapes of ships, urging them toward the sea. Whether superstition or truth, the effect is the same. Spirits harden, hopes. Life in Persian-occupied Athens is grotesque. Messengers, slipping back from the ruins, describe soldiers using sanctuaries as feasting halls, gold melted into jewelry for generals' wives, and statues of gods carted off like livestock. In the agora, Persians hold mock trials, pretending to debate in Greek style while sentencing invisible opponents. Their laughter rolls through marble colonnades, desecrating the very air. These stories spread through the camps at Salamis, each one deepening the Athenians' thirst for revenge. And yet, as you stare across the narrow water, you sense that the Persians have made a fatal miscalculation. By burning Athens, they have not ended the war, they have sharpened it. The people of the city now live in exile, but they live. Their wooden walls float, ready to ram, ready to strike. Themistocles' trap is nearly set, and though Xerxes cannot hear it, the whisper of oars against water already hums like a promise. The Persian army lingers in Athens like a conquering beast sprawled across its prey. The ruins smoulder, temples stand gutted, and soldiers swagger through empty streets as if they own the gods themselves. Horses chew hay where philosophers once debated, their stamping echoing against cracked columns. In the agora, soldiers lounge on toppled statues, laughing, drinking, and playing dice with stolen coins. The heart of Greece has become a campsite, and for Xerxes, it is a stage to flaunt his supremacy. Yet beneath the surface of triumph lies rot. The sheer size of the Persian host strains the land. Attica, stripped bare by fleeing Athenians, offers little food. Supply lines stretch thin back to Thessaly and beyond. The soldiers grow tired of smoke and ashes, their victory tasting increasingly hollow. Many wonder aloud why they are camped in ruins, when the real enemy, the fleet, floats defiantly across the strait. Xerxes, however, revels in his dominance. He strolls among the ruins, trailing attendants who sweep dust from his path. When he reaches the blackened Acropolis, he pauses before the charred remains of Athena's temple. Raising his hand, he proclaims to his generals that Persia has shamed Greece's greatest goddess. His scribes scratch furiously to record the boast, their wax tablets filling with words of triumph. To Xerxes, Athens is not a loss for Greece, it is propaganda for Persia. But the soldiers are less convinced. Stories spread of Greek raiding parties striking the edges of the camp, harassing supply wagons, disappearing into the hills. A few Persians mutter that perhaps the gods of this land are angered. After all, the sacred olive tree, though burned, has sprouted again from its charred stump. Some whisper that Athena herself has not abandoned her people. Superstition creeps through the ranks, subtle but corrosive. Inside the ruins, Persian officers establish order as best they can. Temples are converted into storage rooms. The shattered marble of statues is piled into makeshift barricades. Horses whinny in the shadow of scorched sanctuaries, their manure soaking into ancient flagstones. Fires blaze at night, casting grotesque shadows of drunken soldiers across once holy walls. To Athenians watching from Salamis, the sight is unbearable, a desecration as much spiritual as physical. Themistocles seizes on this outrage. He tells sailors gathered by torchlight that the Persians have insulted the gods, and now divine vengeance demands Greek hands. He describes, in vivid detail, soldiers stabling horses in Athena's temple, mocking the gods, parading stolen treasures. His words inflame the men, transforming sorrow into fury. They hold our city, he says, but not our spirit. Tomorrow we strike not for stone but for the soul of Greece. Still, doubts linger. The Persian fleet at Phaleron dwarfs the Greek ships in number. Phoenician vessels, Egyptian warships, Cilician craft all line the coast in a forest of masts. Their prows glint with paint and bronze, their crews confident in their supremacy. For Xerxes, the sea is merely another place to display numbers. For the Greeks, it is a tightrope over the abyss. From Salamis' shores, you watch the Persian navy train. Their ships sweep in long arcs, oars dipping in perfect rhythm, sails snapping taut in the wind, drums echo, beating time for hundreds of rowers. The spectacle is intimidating. Even hardened sailors mutter uneasily at the sight of so many hulls crowding the horizon. Themistocles alone seems undeterred. He studies every maneuver, every formation, searching for flaws. At night, the Persian soldiers in Athens continue their debauchery. They mock Greek rituals, singing crude parodies of hymns. Some stage mock sacrifices, laughing as they offer burnt scraps of food on temple altars. Others boast of women seized in raids, their voices carrying across the silent ruins. For the Athenians on Salamis, the tales sting like salt in wounds. Yet, the more Persia desecrates, the deeper the Athenians' resolve burrows. The children ask again why the gods allow such insults. Mothers answer with patience. The gods wait, as we wait. The elders, however, whisper darker truths, that the gods work through men, through oars and rams and courage. And so the fleet becomes not merely wood and bronze, but the vessel of divine will. Each ship is a temple afloat, each crew a priesthood rowing toward vengeance. Meanwhile, Xerxes prepares for spectacle. He orders a throne built on the slopes of Mount Aigaleos, from which he can watch the sea battle he believes inevitable. He envisions the Greek fleet crushed, their ships splintered beneath Persian numbers, their bodies bobbing like driftwood. He will watch, he decides, as calmly as he watched Athens burn, but Themistocles plots in shadows. He sends a secret message to Xerxes pretending betrayal. The Greeks plan to slip away under cover of night, he claims, unless Xerxes blocks the straits. The great king swallows the bait, eager to trap his prey. He orders his fleet into the narrow waters at dawn. It is pride disguised as strategy, arrogance disguised as certainty. Back in Athens, the Persians grow complacent. They believe the city conquered, the war already won. They feast, drink and mock, unaware that their laughter drifts across the strait into Greek ears, sharpened by grief. The ruins of Athens lie silent under the stars, but the silence is not surrender. It is waiting for the clash of oars, the scream of timbers, the roar of vengeance that will soon rise from the sea. The day dawns sharp and clear, the sea around Salamis glittering like hammered bronze. You wake to the sound of triremes creaking against their moorings, sailors shouting as they load provisions, and the steady thump of drums rehearsing the rhythm rowers will soon follow. There is no mistaking it now. The moment Themistocles has been waiting for has arrived. The Persian fleet stirs across the water, a vast forest of masts shifting like reeds in the wind, and the Greeks prepare to meet them head-on. Themistocles walks along the shore, his cloak whipping in the breeze, his eyes narrowed toward the horizon. He speaks little, but his presence radiates urgency. Everyone knows of his trick, the secret message sent to Xerxes, luring the Persians into the narrow straits. If it works, the Greeks will fight where Persian numbers count for nothing, where maneuverability trumps size. If it fails, Athens' exile ends not in triumph, but in drowning. The stakes ride on this gamble, and you feel the weight of it pressing against your chest. From your perch, you watch the Persians row forward. Their ships are larger, grander, painted with brilliant colors that reflect the morning sun. Their crews chant in foreign tongues, the sound carrying across the water like the hum of bees. Yet for all their splendor, their size is their weakness. The straits between Salamis and the mainland are narrow, tricky to navigate. Already their formations look cramped, the line of ships bunching together like cattle pressed into a pen. The Greeks, by contrast, seem lean and precise. Triremes line up in compact ranks, their bronze rams gleaming, their rowers already trained to pivot on a heartbeat's command. You imagine the sensation of sitting on one, sweat dripping down your back, oar heavy in your calloused hands, the smell of pitch and salt filling your nose. Around you, comrades whisper prayers to Athena, to Poseidon, to any god listening. Themistocles' voice echoes, the wooden walls will stand. Persian horns blare, deep and resonant. Their ships surge forward, oars splashing in unison. The sea churns white under the weight of hundreds of hulls. From his throne on Mount Agelaeus, Xerxes watches, convinced he will see the Greeks crushed. His attendants fan him. Scribes ready their tablets. Generals hover at his side. For the great king, the battle is not a test, but a performance. A victory already scripted. Then the Greeks move. Triremes slice forward, not in retreat, but in sudden attack. Their oars bite the water, their bronze rams aimed like spears. The narrow straits amplify their speed. The Persians, hemmed in, struggle to maneuver. A Phoenician warship tries to swing broadside, but another Persian vessel crashes into it. The two hulks grinding together, confusion ripples through their line. Themistocles has sprung his trap. From Salamis' shore, the noise is overwhelming. The crack of rams, splintering hulls, echoes across the water. Screams rise, some in Greek, many in foreign tongues. The clash of oars, the crash of wood, the roar of men fills the air like thunder. Seabirds wheel above, shrieking as if drawn to the carnage. You feel your pulse quicken, your breath shallow. This is not a battle of distant armies. It is chaos unfolding in sight, sound and smell. A Greek trireme drives its prow into a Persian ship, wood shattering, water rushing in. Rowers leap into the sea, their cries muffled as waves swallow them. Another Greek vessel swings wide, striking again, its ram piercing two ships tangled together. The Persians, so sure of their numbers, now find themselves colliding with each other as much as the enemy. Their larger ships, trapped in the crush, cannot escape the deadly agility of the triremes. Themistocles himself sails at the forefront, urging his men onward. His eyes burn with intensity, his commands sharp. To him this is not merely battle, but salvation, the only chance to avenge Athens and secure Greece's survival. Each ship that sinks is another offering to the goddess, whose temple lies smouldering. Each rammed hull is an answer to the Persian laughter, echoing through burned ruin. The Persians, caught off guard, try to rally. Arrows darken the air, a hail of death whistling across the straits. Greek shields rise, but some fall screaming, blood staining decks. Javelins arc overhead, splashing into the water, or lodging into timbers. Yet for every Greek ship struck, another Persian vessel founders. The narrow channel twists the battle into knots, turning Persia's vast armada into a liability. You watch the scene like a fever dream. Men thrash in the water, some clutching wreckage, others dragged under by the weight of armor. A trireme tips, its oars flailing like broken limbs before capsizing with a hollow roar. The smell of pitch, wood smoke, and blood mingles with salt spray. The sea, once calm and gleaming, now churns red. Still, the Greeks press harder. Their chants rise above the din. Rhythmic, defiant, forward, strike, drive them back. Every successful ram, every splintered hull fuels their courage. You can almost feel the vibration through the ground of Salamis as triremes crash and grind. Themistocles' strategy is working. The Persians are being undone, not by weakness, but by their very size. From his throne, Xerxes watches in disbelief. His eyes widen, his hands tighten on the armrests. What was meant to be spectacle becomes disaster. He shouts orders, but his words are swallowed by chaos. Scribes scribble frantically, unsure whether to record triumph or catastrophe. Attendants glance nervously at one another, for to bear witness to the great king's humiliation is a dangerous burden. Yet Xerxes cannot stop the unraveling. His navy, once a proud arm of empire, is breaking apart before his eyes. Ships crash into each other, oars snap like twigs, men drown in droves. Across the strait, Greek cheers ring louder, fueled by vengeance. Themistocles' gamble has paid off. The Persians, lured into the narrow waters, are being picked apart. As the sun rises higher, the outcome becomes clear. Persian ships burn or sink, their crews lost. The Greeks hold the waters, their triremes darting like wolves among cattle. The sea itself becomes a graveyard of splintered hulls, bobbing corpses and broken weapons. From Salamis you can smell the fire, hear the cries, feel the shift of history itself. And yet, amid the carnage, one truth burns brighter than all. The Athenians, homeless and grieving, have struck back. Their city may lie in ruins, but their spirit sails. Every rammed ship is not just a victory of wood over wood, but of people over empire, of resilience over fire. And somewhere in the smoke and spray, you sense the goddess smiling, her olive tree sprouting anew in vengeance. The straits of Salamis have become a maelstrom of shattered hulls and screaming men. As the Persian fleet tries to force its way forward, the narrow waters choke it, turning advantage into chaos. Ships scrape against one another, oars snap like kindling, and commanders shout conflicting orders in a dozen languages. The once mighty navy that stretched from Phoenicia to Egypt suddenly looks like a herd of animals penned too tight, trampling each other in panic. From your place on Salamis's rocky shore, you watch as the Greeks surge forward. Their triremes, sleek and agile, dart in and out like wolves, snapping at the flanks of lumbering oxen. Each bronze ram glitters before plunging into timber, splintering decks with the sound of thunder. A cheer rises from the island every time a Persian hull cracks open. Every time enemy sailors tumble into the foaming sea, the roar of the crowd mingles with the clang of battle, as if all Greece itself is shouting. Themistocles' strategy shines with merciless clarity. He had gambled that Persian arrogance would drive them into the bottleneck, and now the trap has sprung. The Greeks maneuver with precision, their rowers disciplined, their helmsmen sharp. You imagine the rhythm pounding inside each ship, the drumbeat marking every stroke, the sweat dripping down men's backs, the surge of power as 170 oars strike the sea in unison. It is more than rowing, it is survival hammered into muscle. Persian ships too large for such waters crash into one another as much as the enemy. You see a Phoenician vessel rammed not by a Greek trireme, but by a Cilician ally in the confusion. The two entangle, oars splintering, men screaming as arrows from both sides rain down upon them. The scene becomes grotesque theatre, allies and enemies alike caught in a whirlpool of destruction. Greek sailors chant as they fight, their voices raw but unyielding. For Athens, for freedom. Each cry slices through the chaos, turning fear into ferocity. They fight not only for their lives but for their burned city, for the ashes of the Acropolis, still smouldering behind them. The memory of sacred temples mocked and horses stabled in sanctuaries fuels every swing of a sword, every push of an oar. From Mount Aigaleos, Xerxes leans forward on his throne. He had expected a spectacle of victory, Greek ships splintered, men begging for mercy. Instead, he sees his fleet grinding into wreckage, his proud navy dissolving into panic. His scribes hesitate, their styluses hovering uncertainly. What does one write when history defies the king's script? Some glance nervously at the great king's expression, knowing too well the fate of messengers who bring bad news. Arrows continue to darken the sky, their whistling descent punctuated by cries as they pierce flesh. Decks run slick with blood and seawater. You watch one Greek hoplite leap onto a Persian deck, spear flashing as he cuts down sailors, only to be dragged into the sea by sheer numbers. A heartbeat later, another Greek trireme smashes the same ship broadside, finishing what he began. The water erupts with wreckage and limbs. Yet amid the slaughter, the Greek rhythm holds. Their triremes dart like hunting dogs, disciplined and ruthless. Athenian captains steer their ships with uncanny precision, skimming past wrecks, striking where the Persian line buckles. Themistocles' plan thrives on order amid chaos. His men trained for this very trap, while the Persians drown in their own numbers. The noise is deafening. The crash of wood against wood, the roar of men, the cries of the drowning. It all blends into one endless thunder. The sea itself seems to groan under the weight of corpses and splintered beams. Gulls wheel overhead, shrieking as they dive for floating scraps of flesh. The stench of smoke, blood and brine chokes the air. You realize you are watching, not just a battle but a slaughter. Persian commanders try to rally their men, shouting above the din. Some fight with valor, leading charges across shattered decks. Others retreat, their ships backing oars desperately, colliding with allies in their flight. Confusion reigns. The sheer variety of languages among Xerxes' fleet, Phoenician, Egyptian, Median, turns every shouted order into chaos. Where one commander calls for advance, another calls for retreat. The Greeks exploit the disarray mercilessly. On Salamis, the refugees erupt in cheers each time a Persian ship founders. Women clutch children, pointing out flaming hulks drifting on the tide. Old men weep openly, tears cutting through soot on their faces. For them, each sinking ship is repayment for the Acropolis. Each drowned enemy a stone laid toward rebuilding Athens. Hope, fragile for weeks, now swells like a wave, but it is not without cost. Greek triremes burn too, their crews leaping into the sea, their bodies soon indistinguishable from Persian corpses. The water makes no distinction in death. You watch one Athenian ship split in two, its mast collapsing, rowers trapped beneath wreckage. Their screams fade quickly into the roaring tide. The Greeks may be winning, but the sea devours victor and vanquished alike. Still, momentum belongs to the Greeks. Ship after ship falls, Persian numbers shrinking with every clash. The strait becomes clogged with wreckage, further hindering Xerxes' fleet. A Persian commander, desperate, drives his ship straight at Themistocles' flagship. The two hulls grind together, men swarming across decks in a frenzy. For a moment it seems Themistocles himself may fall, but then a second Greek trireme rams the Persian broadside, breaking its spine. The attackers scatter, cut down, or hurled into the sea. Themistocles survives, his cloak soaked but his eyes burning brighter than ever. From his throne, Xerxes watches his fleet unravel. His attendants whisper nervously, some glancing toward the king's face, others feigning ignorance of the disaster. Xerxes, furious, grips his golden scepter so tightly his knuckles whiten. This was to be his crowning triumph, a victory to eclipse Thermopylae. Instead it becomes humiliation writ across the waves. And yet, he cannot stop it. The trap is sprung, the battle lost. The narrow straits are no place for numbers to matter, no stage for empire's pride. Here, agility, discipline, and vengeance rule. The Greeks, fueled by their burning city, fight like men possessed, and the Persians, weighed down by arrogance, drown in their own abundance. By midday, the outcome is undeniable. Persian ships burn or sink in droves. Survivors cling to wreckage, their cries fading as exhaustion pulls them under. The Greeks, battered but unbroken, hold the waters. Themistocles' gamble has become salvation, Athens as ashes avenged in blood and brine. From the shore you feel history shift. Athens may be burned, but its people are undowed. Their city may lie in ruins, but their spirit sails victorious on the sea. As the battle rages on, you understand, Xerxes has won Athens as stones, but he has lost Greece's heart, and in that loss his empire begins to fracture. The straits are clogged with splintered beams, overturned hulls, and bodies bobbing like driftwood. What was once a glittering Persian armada now drifts in ruin, the smell of burning pitch and wet ash clinging to every gust of wind. From Salamis' shoreline, you watch the chaos unfold like some grotesque play, one where the actors scream, drown, and vanish into the red tide. The sea itself seems drunk with blood, yet the battle does not end quickly. Every surviving Persian ship fights desperately to escape the trap. Captains shout frantically, ordering rowers to back oars, but the narrow straits give no space to maneuver. One Egyptian vessel attempts to turn, its stern swinging wide, only to be caught by two Greek triremes. Their bronze rams strike in unison, puncturing the hull like twin daggers. Within minutes the ship lists, its rowers tumbling into the waves, their cries muffled by salt water. Themistocles pushes his advantage relentlessly. He signals for the Greeks to press deeper into the melee, exploiting every gap. Triremes dart in, strike, then pull away before Persian counterblows can land. Their discipline holds, their rhythm unbroken, while Persian formations dissolve into knots of confusion. You picture the rowers below deck, sweat pouring from their bodies, lungs burning, yet each stroke driven by fury for their ruined city. Amid the chaos, individual duels erupt. Greek marines leap onto Persian decks, swords flashing in brutal arcs. You see one Athenian seize a Persian captain, hurling him into the sea before planting the city's serpent-emblazoned shield where he stood. The gesture, bold and defiant, sparks cheers across nearby ships. Every act of defiance is a balm for the pain of watching Athens burn. Persian arrows still rain down, darkening the air. Some Greeks fall screaming, their bodies jerking before tumbling into the water. Yet the storm of arrows grows less organized, less precise. With each Persian ship lost, the volleys thin, their rhythm breaking like a snapped string. Greek shields rise, deflecting shafts with dull thuds, while triremes drive forward undeterred. The narrow waters magnify every sound, the cracking timbers, the desperate cries, the pounding drums, urging rowers on. You close your eyes for a moment, and it feels as if the sea itself has become a great heartbeat, pulsing with rage and grief. Even gulls circling overhead screech as though mocking the Persians below. From his throne, Xerxes leans further and further forward, his perfect posture crumbling into agitation. He waves his arms, barks commands, but his voice is swallowed by the cacophony. Generals around him shuffle uneasily, uncertain whether to echo his orders or hold their tongues. The scribes scratch furiously, recording disaster they know could cost them their lives. The spectacle Xerxes promised has become an embarrassment writ large on the waves. Greek momentum only grows. Ships dart like blades between lumbering Persian vessels, ramming and retreating in seamless rhythm. Themistocles maneuvers his flagship boldly, striking where the enemy's line buckles. His oarsmen, their muscles trembling with exhaustion, obey his every command. You can almost hear the rasp of his voice cutting through the din. Strike! Ram! Break them! His gamble has become triumph, and he refuses to let the moment slip. One Persian ship bursts into flames, its pitch-soaked timbers igniting under a volley of Greek fire arrows. The blaze leaps from deck to sail, engulfing men who leap screaming into the sea. Their burning wreck drifts into another Persian vessel, which catches fire in turn. Soon a chain of infernos lights the straits, black smoke coiling into the sky. From Salamis, the glow paints the faces of refugees, their eyes reflecting both horror and grim satisfaction. Amid the victory, the cost is heavy. Greek triremes sink too, their hulls splintered, their crews lost. You watch one vessel, struck squarely by a Persian ram, break apart mid-stride. Men scramble onto debris, but few survive. The sea makes no distinction between conqueror and defender. It devours all, with equal hunger. Still, the Greeks hold the upper hand, their sacrifices forging a wall of resolve that Persians cannot break. As the sun climbs higher, the tide of battle shifts decisively. Persian ships begin to flee, pulling oars desperately to escape the trap. Their retreat only worsens the chaos, colliding with allies still pressing forward. Shouts of betrayal ripple through their lines. Phoenicians blame Egyptians, Cilicians curse Medes. Confusion turns into accusations, accusations into flight. The empire's great navy fractures into quarrels even as it sinks. From the island, Athenians cheer so loudly it drowns out the sea. Mothers clutch children, pointing toward burning ships, telling them to remember this sight forever. Old men raise trembling fists, tears streaming down their faces. For them, every sinking hull is a stone laid toward rebuilding their city. Every drowning enemy a sacrifice to Athena's vengeance. Hope, long buried under ash and grief, rises like a phoenix from the water. Yet the fury of battle leaves scars. The cries of the drowning haunt you, mingling with the laughter of Persians who mocked your temples. You wonder if the gods themselves watch this carnage with pride or sorrow, perhaps both. War, after all, is never clean. It is fire that burns victor and victim alike. Still, one truth becomes undeniable. Xerxes' grand gamble has failed. His fleet, the pride of an empire, lies shattered. His soldiers, once arrogant in the ruins of Athens, now choke on salt water and ash. And the Greeks, fueled by grief and guided by cunning, stand victorious. As the last Persian vessels limp away, the straits fall into uneasy quiet. Smoke drifts across the water, the air thick with the stench of death. Broken hulls bob like gravestones, gulls circling hungrily overhead. On Salamis, cheers give way to silence, exhaustion finally seeping in. The people of Athens, though homeless and grieving, know they have struck a blow that will echo across history. You breathe deeply, the briny air stinging your throat. The Acropolis may lie in ruins, its stones blackened, its temples defiled. But here, on the water, Athens has found its answer. Its true walls were never stone but wood, never temples but people, and in that truth lies salvation. From the shore of Salamis you watch as the Persian fleet collapses into ruin, and above it all, on Mount Aigaleos, Xerxes sits on his throne, a man who cannot believe what his own eyes tell him. He had come expecting to witness the Greeks drowning, Athens' last defenders, swallowed by his sea of ships. Instead, he sees Phoenician prows splintered, Egyptian sails burning, Cilician oarsmen leaping into the sea like desperate fish. His scribes, who only hours ago carved words of triumph, now hesitate, their styluses scratching half-finished lines. What can one write when the invincible navy crumbles in front of the King of Kings? Xerxes' attendants glance at one another nervously, unsure whether to record disaster or wait for him to speak. One courtier whispers that the gods of Greece must fight for their people. Another mutters that the omens were clear, that the olive tree on the Acropolis sprouting anew was Athena's promise. But no one dares voice such thoughts too loudly. Around Xerxes, fear is contagious. He glares at the battlefield, his fingers clenching the armrest of his golden throne, so hard that the gilded surface bends under his grip. Down on the water, the Greeks push their advantage. Triremes wheel and strike again, their bronze rams crunching into Persian hulls. You imagine the scene through Xerxes' eyes, his proud fleet, numbering in the hundreds, jammed together in the straits, their strength turned to weakness by Themistocles' cunning. To watch such disorder would be unbearable for any commander, but for a king who proclaimed himself divine, it is humiliation carved into the waves. Xerxes shouts for his generals. Runners sprint to and fro, but orders cannot fix what arrogance has already broken. Some captains try to rally, but their words are lost in the chaos. Others retreat, pulling away from the straits, colliding with allies, still pressing forward. From the hilltop, it must look like a hive collapsing, wings and limbs scattering in panic. The great king narrows his eyes, but no command can restore pride drowned by salt water. Beside him, loyal nobles attempt to soothe his anger. This is but one skirmish, they murmur. The army still holds Greece, but Xerxes knows what they refuse to admit. The sea is no small skirmish. It is the artery through which his invasion breathes. Without control of the waters, feeding and supplying his army becomes a burden too heavy, even for Persia. You can almost hear his thoughts grinding like stones. Retreat? Advance? Burn more cities? Or perhaps flee back across the Hellespont, before winter cuts off his bridge of boats? Every choice now tastes of ash. His once perfect invasion, carefully staged, gloriously adorned, larger than life, has cracked, and cracks spread. Meanwhile, the Greeks roar with triumph. Every Persian hull that founders draws cheers from Salamis' shore. Refugees clap, shout and weep, their grief momentarily drowned in joy. Mothers point for their children. Look, that one burns for the Acropolis. Old men lift trembling arms, whispering that Athena herself guides the triremes. For once, the cries across the water are not of despair but of vindication. Themistocles stands at the prow of his flagship, cloak whipping in the sea breeze. His face is lined with exhaustion, his hair plastered with salt, yet his eyes blaze. He scans the straits not with relief, but with calculation. He knows victory today does not end the war. It only cracks the mask of Persian invincibility. Still, the weight of his gamble lifts slightly, his faith in the wooden walls vindicated by the wreckage floating before him. Back on Mount Aegialos, Xerxes slams his fist onto the armrest of his throne. His immortals, the elite guard standing nearby, stiffen, but do not move. To witness their king's fury is dangerous, yet they too must see what unfolds. Some scribes scratch nervously, others hold their tablets motionless, waiting for permission to record again. The silence around Xerxes grows heavy, broken only by the crash of ships below. He rises suddenly. Attendants scramble, adjusting his parasol, but Xerxes waves them off. He wants the world to see him standing, not seated in disgrace. His generals bow, promising vengeance, insisting the fleet can regroup, but his eyes betray doubt. He has seen enough to know that Salamis is no mere setback. The sight of Greek ships darting among his lumbering armada will haunt him. You imagine his thoughts circling. How the Greeks, a mere cluster of city-states, could outwit the greatest empire on earth. How Themistocles lured him into this trap, turning pride into downfall. How his glorious invasion, planned with such spectacle, now teeters. Perhaps he even remembers the whipping of the Hellespont. The sea defied him once, and now it defies him again. Down in the straits, the Persians falter. Some ships turn tail and flee outright, their oars splashing frantically. Others fight to the death, their decks soaked red, their captains refusing to abandon pride. But the pattern is clear. Persia is losing. Xerxes' navy, once hailed as unstoppable, is reduced to wreckage and scattered survivors. On Salamis, you see the change ripple across the refugees. Where once they huddled in fear, they now stand tall. Children cheer with wide eyes, women clasp hands in prayerful thanks. Old men smile through tears. Hope, so long strangled, breathes again. The ruins of Athens remain, but vengeance has bloomed upon the water. Still, Themistocles keeps his men focused. He signals restraint, ordering ships not to chase too far. The Greeks have won the straits, but open waters still hold dangers. Better to hold victory than risk greed. His discipline steadies the fleet, even as emotions surge. This is not just revenge, it is survival measured stroke by stroke. From his throne, Xerxes watches his navy scatter, his dream unravel. The once unstoppable tide of Persia meets the immovable resilience of Greece, and for the first time in his reign, he tastes the bitterness of defeat. He clenches his jaw, his pride bleeding into silence. Around him, attendants bow lower, generals promise excuses, but none of it can hide the truth shimmering on the waves. The great king has been humbled, and all the empire will know it. The air thickens with smoke and salt, the cries of the dying mingling with the cheers of the living. History pivots in that sound, a hinge creaking between empire and defiance. Xerxes' revenge has burned Athens, yes, but in the straits of Salamis, Athens has answered with fire of its own. And as you stare at the horizon, you understand that this is only the beginning. The echoes of battle still rumble across the straits when the outcome becomes undeniable. The Persians are broken. Their ships drift aimlessly, many ablaze, others shattered into splinters. Survivors cling to wreckage, their arms thrashing weakly before the sea claims them. Greek sailors, though battered and bloodied, row with renewed vigor, their chants carrying across the water like a victory hymn. The wooden walls of Themistocles have held, and in holding, they have turned the tide of war. You stand among the Athenians crowded along Salamis's rocky shore. The smell of salt, pitch, and smoke fills your lungs. For weeks you watched your city burn, temples topple, and sacred places mocked by foreign soldiers. Now, at last, you witness revenge writ large on the sea. Every sinking Persian hull is a balm to the wounds carved into your heart. Children clap and laugh, not fully understanding, but sensing triumph in the adults' cries. Mothers point at the burning ships, whispering to little ones, "That is for our home." Yet victory is not clean. Greek ships too lie wrecked, their crews floating lifeless among the enemy dead. Rowers slump over benches, exhausted beyond measure, their muscles quivering, their bodies streaked with sweat and blood. Marines lean on their spears, panting, their armor dented from brutal combat. You hear the coughs of men dragged half-drowned from the sea, their eyes glazed with shock. War spares no one, even in triumph. Themistocles, though, wastes no time. He strides the decks of his flagship, calling for discipline. His voice, hoarse from shouting, still cuts through the din. "Hold the line. Do not pursue too far," he warns, waving his arm toward open waters. His men obey, weary but resolute. They know this victory is not an invitation to recklessness, but a gift to be preserved. For all his cunning, Themistocles is cautious. He will not gamble what he has already won. From his lofty throne on Mount Aigaleos, Xerxes watches with dark eyes. The king of kings, who once believed himself destined to crush Greece, now sees his fleet scattered. His face, usually serene with pride, is twisted in disbelief. Attendants shuffle nervously, bowing lower and lower, as if to shield themselves from his wrath. Generals stammer excuses, blaming the narrow waters, the undisciplined allies, the treachery of fortune. But none of it matters. Xerxes knows humiliation when it stares back at him. He has burned Athens to ash. Yet the spirit of Athens sails before him, triumphant. The survivors limp back toward Salamis' harbors. Ships drag oars through water thick with wreckage, their hulls scarred, their sails torn. Refugees rush forward to meet them, weeping with relief. Wives embrace husbands, children cling to fathers, brothers clasp arms with trembling hands. You see a sailor collapse on the sand, kissing the ground as though he has returned not from the straits but from the underworld itself. The people of Athens, though homeless, breathe together in one rhythm of survival. As the victors gather, speeches erupt spontaneously. An old man, his beard streaked with ash, raises his arms and cries, "The gods have not abandoned us. Athens lives." Others echo his words, voices swelling until the island itself seems to tremble. Themistocles addresses them too, his tone calm but firm. He reminds them that victory is not the end. Persia's army still marches across the land, and Xerxes still commands more men than Greece can count. But Salamis has proven one thing: Persia can bleed. The refugees take solace in more than vengeance. For the first time since fleeing their city, they feel united. In the camps of Salamis, Spartan, Corinthian, and Athenian stand shoulder to shoulder, bound by shared triumph. Jealousies and rivalries momentarily dissolve in the heat of victory. For once Greece is not a patchwork of squabbling states, but a single wall of defiance against empire. You sense the weight of this moment, fragile, fleeting, but monumental. Meanwhile, Persian morale crumbles. Survivors drag themselves ashore near Phaleron, their faces ashen, their pride shattered. Rumors race through their camp, that the gods themselves fought for the Greeks, that Poseidon stirred the waters, that Athena guided the rams. Some whisper that Xerxes should return home before the same fate befalls his army. Fear, more than wounds, spreads like wildfire among them. Xerxes, though seething, masks his shame in silence. He dismisses his generals harshly, sending them away with glances sharp enough to cut. Alone, he gazes across the water at the smouldering wreckage of his fleet. Perhaps for the first time he wonders whether empire has limits, whether even a king of kings cannot command the sea. The thought must taste bitter, like ash clinging to the tongue. On Salamis, the night falls with strange calm. Fires burn along the shoreline, casting orange light over weary faces. Families huddle close, sharing food, sharing stories of the battle they just witnessed. Children fall asleep listening to the roar of waves still carrying the echoes of rams and cries. For them, the nightmare of exile feels, if not ended, at least avenged. You sit quietly, staring across the dark straits. The Acropolis still lies in ruins, black against the stars. The temples are gone, the statues toppled. Athens is ash. Yet you realize that in its destruction, the city has given birth to something greater, resolve. The Persians have burned stone, but they cannot burn spirit. The victory at Salamis proves it. Athens survives not in marble, but in its people, in their wooden walls of ships, in their refusal to kneel. For Xerxes, the dream of conquering Greece now flickers like a candle guttering in the wind. He has shown the world the spectacle of burning Athens, but the Greeks have answered with fire of their own. And as you watch the smoke drift slowly away into the night sky, you understand that history has shifted. From the ashes of Athens rises a new flame, one that will burn long after Xerxes' throne grows cold. The dawn after Salamis is unlike any other. Instead of waking to smoke and despair, the Athenians rise on Salamis to a sky washed clean by sea winds. A sky that seems to promise renewal. The waves roll quietly now, carrying with them the charred remains of ships and the silence of countless drowned men. The refugees, weary from grief and hunger, step onto the beaches and stare across the strait. For the first time in weeks, their eyes are not filled with terror, but with something harder, resolve. Themistocles wastes no time in pressing that resolve into action. He gathers the leaders of the allied fleet, Spartans, Corinthians, Aeginetans, and together they confirm what everyone already knows: Greece has survived. They have broken the Persian fleet. The Persians may still hold Athens, but without control of the sea, their army is stranded in hostile territory, unable to feed itself for long. Themistocles argues that now is the time to prepare for the next stage. His voice, though hoarse, rings with authority. Athens may be ash, but she breathes through us. We will return. The refugees murmur, their emotions tangled. They long to go home, to walk again through familiar streets, to see their olive groves and temples. Yet, they know what awaits: ruins, ashes, blackened stones. Some women whisper prayers that perhaps the gods have preserved a corner of the city, a shrine left untouched. Others steel themselves for the truth that their children will never again see Athens as it once stood. Still, Themistocles insists that return is necessary. The fleet cannot remain forever in exile. The people must reclaim their land, however ruined, to remind Persia that Athens cannot be erased. He speaks of rebuilding, of planting olive groves anew, of raising temples even more splendid than those Xerxes burned. His words strike deep. To rebuild is not just necessity, it is defiance. When scouts confirm that the Persian army has begun withdrawing north, leaving only smouldering ruins behind, the decision is made: the Athenians will go back. The voyage is short but heavy with dread. You step aboard a trireme once more, the wooden deck creaking beneath your sandals, and watch as the blackened skyline of Athens grows nearer. The Acropolis looms ahead, its proud outline reduced to jagged teeth. Smoke no longer rises, but the smell of ash clings to the air, carried on every breeze. The first steps back into the city are like walking into a tomb. Streets that once thrummed with debate and laughter now lie silent, strewn with rubble. The agora is a graveyard of broken statues and shattered columns. Marble colonnades lie toppled, their fragments scattered like bones. Blackened timbers jut from collapsed houses. Charred pottery shards crunch beneath your feet. Dogs sniff among the ruins, their ribs visible, scavenging what little remains. The Acropolis is worst of all. You climb the steep path with the others, hearts heavy, and gaze upon the devastation. The temples are gutted shells, their roofs caved in, their stones blackened. The ancient wooden idol of Athenopolius, so long revered, lies burned to ash. Offerings of gold and ivory have melted into twisted lumps. Yet amid the wreckage, you notice something miraculous. From the charred stump of the sacred olive tree, new shoots sprout, green and defiant. The people gasp, some weeping openly. It is as if Athena herself whispers, "I endure." The return to ruins is painful, yet it steals resolve. The Athenians scatter through their neighborhoods, calling out names of loved ones, searching for fragments of home. Some find trinkets buried in ash, a bronze cup, a child's toy, a cracked jar, and clutch them as if they were treasures. Others find only emptiness. The grief is fresh, raw, and unbearable. Yet no one speaks of abandoning the city again. Instead, voices rise with oaths to rebuild. Themistocles walks among the people, his presence steadying. He does not sugarcoat the devastation, but reminds them that stone can be laid again, statues can be carved anew, and temples can be raised higher. Athens is not these ruins, he says, his hand sweeping across the blackened skyline. Athens is us, and so long as we live, she lives. His words kindle the same fire you saw in the straits, a determination born not of pride alone, but of survival. Life in the ruined city begins awkwardly. Families set up makeshift shelters amid the rubble, weaving branches and cloth into tents. Wells are cleared of ash, hearths are relit. The agora, once filled with merchants, now becomes a meeting ground where people share supplies and stories. At night, fires flicker among ruins, casting eerie light on toppled statues. The city feels both alive and dead at once, a ghost of itself yet stubbornly inhabited. There is mourning, of course. The names of those who died defending the Acropolis are recited aloud, their bravery honored in solemn tones. Families lay wreaths on the blackened stones, tears mingling with ash. But mourning quickly turns to resolve. The people decide that some ruins must remain untouched, sacred reminders of Persia's cruelty. The gutted temples will stand as scars, testaments to both loss and endurance. Athens will rebuild, but it will not forget. The olive tree becomes a symbol of that promise. Children touch its green shoots reverently. Mothers whisper prayers beside it, and elders declare that Athena has shown her blessing. From a stump burned to ash, life emerges. It is a metaphor the Athenians seize upon eagerly. They too will sprout anew, stronger than before. In the weeks that follow, Athens becomes a strange blend of ruin and renewal. You hear the ring of hammers as carpenters salvage beams, the scrape of stone as masons clear rubble. Farmers return to olive groves, pruning charred branches in hope of fresh growth. Priests set up altars in makeshift shrines, offering sacrifices to gods they believe never abandoned them. Slowly, painfully, life threads itself back through the city's blackened bones. From across Greece, allies marvel at Athens' return. Many expected the Athenians to abandon their city entirely, to live permanently in exile. Instead, they choose to reclaim their home, ruined though it is. This act of defiance strengthens the Greek cause, proving that Persia's fire cannot destroy the will of a people. You feel it too as you walk through the rubble, a strange pride, a knowledge that Athens' story did not end in flames, it was only rewritten. And as you look again at the Acropolis, its temples reduced to husks, its goddesses' home scarred but unbroken, you understand that this is not merely survival, it is transformation. From ashes Athens rises, not yet in marble or gold, but in spirit, in determination, in the unyielding will of its people to endure. The ruins of the Acropolis loom each morning, blackened silhouettes against the rising sun. For weeks, Athenians wander among them, their grief slowly giving way to something harder, resolve. They know they cannot erase what Xerxes did, but they can decide how it will be remembered. And so a remarkable choice takes shape. The ruins will remain. The burned temples, the shattered columns, the charred stones, all will stand as testimony to both Persia's cruelty and Athens' endurance. The assembly gathers among the rubble of the agora, citizens sitting on toppled blocks of marble, the air still carrying the faint scent of ash. Themistocles rises, his cloak patched, and his voice hoarse from sleepless nights. He argues that rebuilding Athens is not just about shelter, it is about meaning. To rebuild too quickly, he warns, would erase the scars that must remind future generations of sacrifice. Instead, the ruins should remain visible until the war is won, until Greece is safe. The crowd murmurs, some nodding, others skeptical, but the idea takes hold. It is not only politics but ritual. Priests declare that the ruins of temples are sacred in their brokenness, proof that the gods themselves endured insult. They insist that leaving them as they are is a form of reverence, not neglect. Mothers bring their children to the Acropolis, pointing at the scorched stones and saying, "Remember this. Persia can burn our walls, but not our spirit." The ruins become both wound and weapon, reminders of suffering and fuel for resilience. Yet life cannot stand still. Amid the decision to preserve the scars, practical rebuilding begins. Carpenters fashion huts from salvaged beams, masons patch wells, potters restart their kiln. The city hums again, though with a different rhythm, slower, more deliberate, like someone recovering from a grave wound. Every sound of hammer on stone echoes with both loss and hope. Themistocles, restless as ever, walks the streets, encouraging the workers. "Every beam you raise, every stone you set," he tells them, "is a promise to your children that Athens will not die." His words inspire, but he also carries another message. The fleet must remain strong, while Athens rebuilds on land. Its true safety lies still upon the water. Themistocles urges more shipbuilding, more training, more preparation. The wooden walls must grow, even as the stone walls remain in ruins. The Acropolis itself becomes a paradoxical space. Pilgrims climb its slopes to leave offerings not at pristine temples but at their wrecks. Wreaths are placed on blackened stones, libations poured onto cracked marble. The new shoots sprouting from Athena's sacred olive tree draw crowds daily. Children touch its leaves as though they were the goddess's own fingers. The tree becomes a symbol stronger than any statue, a living defiance, green against the ash. Still, grief lingers. Families gather at night around fires in the ruins of their homes, telling stories of what once stood. They speak of the Parthenon's predecessor, of festivals where torches lit the Acropolis in joy instead of destruction. Tears fall freely, yet so too does laughter, as memories mix with determination. Even in mourning, Athenians refuse silence. Their city may be blackened, but their voices still echo in its streets. News of Athens' endurance spreads through Greece. Envoys from other polis arrive, marveling at the sight of a people living among ruins, without surrender. Some whisper that Athens is mad, clinging to ashes instead of fleeing. Others, however, feel stirred. If Athens can endure after such devastation, perhaps Greece as a whole can endure against Persia. The ruins become not just Athens' symbol, but a beacon for all Hellas. The decision to leave the Acropolis in ruins is not without tension. Some citizens argue for rebuilding immediately, insisting that grandeur will show Persia that Athens cannot be humbled. But the majority agree with Themistocles and the priests. The scars must remain visible, carved into stone and memory alike. The ruins, they insist, are more powerful than any new temple could be in this moment. So life grows around the scars. Markets reopen in makeshift stalls, their goods meager but their voices lively. Children chase one another through alleys cleared of rubble, their laughter echoing where flames once roared. Farmers return to their fields, pruning charred olive branches, planting new vines. Each act of daily life is both ordinary and extraordinary, a quiet refusal to let Persia's fire define them. You walk through the agora one evening, the air filled with the smell of bread baking in new ovens. The sight is surreal. Half the city still lies in ruin. Yet here, vendors shout their wares, neighbors greet each other, life reclaims space. Overhead, the blackened Acropolis watches silently, both guardian and ghost. For the Athenians, the ruins are not just memory, they are motivation. Every time they see the gutted temples, they are reminded of what they fight for, what must never be allowed again. Children grow up not with stories of abstract courage, but with the sight of burned stone etched into their eyes. It hardens them, steels them, shapes them into citizens who understand that freedom is carved not in marble, but in endurance. And as weeks turn into months, a strange pride grows. Visitors from other cities shake their heads at the devastation, but Athenians lift their chins. Yes, they say, our city burned, and yet here we stand. In leaving the ruins untouched, they have built something invisible but indestructible, a spirit that no empire's fire can consume. The Acropolis, scarred and silent, becomes a paradoxical monument, not of defeat, but of resilience. And in that resilience lies the seed of something greater, something that will one day flower into marble more splendid than before, a city that will not only rise from the ashes, but reshape the course of history. For now, though, Athens breathes among its ruins, scarred but unbroken, wounded but alive. The news of Salamis spreads faster than any messenger could carry. Across Greece, word of the shattered Persian navy lifts spirits and steels resolve. In Sparta, men nod grimly, their pride tempered with respect for Athens' wooden wall. In Corinth, merchants whisper that trade routes may survive after all. Even in small villages far from the war, farmers raise cups of watered wine to toast a victory they may never fully understand. But for Xerxes, the defeat gnaws like a worm in his throne. The great king sits brooding in his tent, near the smouldering ruins of Athens. Around him, courtiers tread lightly, their voices hushed, their movements careful. Gone are the triumphal proclamations, the promises of easy conquest. Now the talk is of supply lines stretched thin, of winter approaching, of restless troops murmuring in foreign tongues. The navy, once his shield and sword, lies wrecked in the straits, its survivors scattered. Without it, feeding his colossal army becomes an impossible burden. Xerxes' generals argue late into the night. Some urge retreat, warning that the fleet's destruction has doomed the invasion. Others push for pressing on, insisting the army is still strong enough to crush Greek resistance on land. The king listens, his face unreadable, but inside, he knows the truth. Salamis has broken the illusion of Persian invincibility. The Greeks, small as they are, have shown they can resist. Pride alone cannot fill bellies or rebuild ships. At last, Xerxes makes his decision. He will withdraw, not fully. He cannot bear the shame of abandoning Greece outright. But he will return to Asia with the bulk of his forces, leaving his trusted general Mardonius behind, with a chosen army to continue the fight. This way the campaign will not appear a total retreat, yet Xerxes can secure his throne and prevent rebellion within his vast empire. His courtiers bow low, disguising relief. For them, survival matters more than pride. The retreat is quiet at first, then unmistakable. Columns of Persian soldiers march northward, their once proud banners drooping, their steps heavy with weariness. Supply wagons creak over rutted roads, laden with whatever grain and loot they can carry. Horses whinny, restless without fodder. The spectacle that once dazzled Greece, an endless river of men and beasts, now looks more like a caravan of exhaustion. On Salamis, scouts bring the news. Xerxes is leaving. Cheers erupt among the refugees. The people of Athens, still living among tents and ruins, lift their heads higher. The Persians who mocked their gods and burned their temples are gone, or at least their king is. For the first time since Thermopylae, the Athenians believe survival is possible. Yet danger lingers. Mardonius remains, his army still formidable. He marches back into Thessaly, hoping to draw the Greeks into open battle. Rumors swirl that he seeks to lure Athens with promises of rebuilding aid if they switch allegiance. Envoys even approach Athenian leaders, offering generous terms under Persian protection. But the city that watched its temples burn has no appetite for compromise. The assembly rejects the offers outright, their voices ringing with defiance. "We will never bow to the men who mocked our gods," one elder declares, and the crowd roars in agreement. Still, the cost of resistance weighs heavily. Athens has little food, few homes, and temples that stand only as blackened shells. Families huddle under makeshift roofs, rationing scraps of bread, enduring cold nights with little warmth. Yet the hardship becomes a badge of honor. Better to starve in freedom, they say, than to feast in slavery. The ruins themselves remind them daily why surrender is impossible. Themistocles continues to drive the fleet forward. He knows Salamis was not the end, but the turning point. He urges shipbuilding to resume, pushing carpenters and smiths to work day and night. Every new trireme launched is another shield against Persia, another promise to Athens' children. He also maneuvers politically, strengthening alliances with Sparta and other city-states, ensuring the unity that made Salamis possible will not dissolve into bickering. His vision is larger now, not just survival, but leadership of Greece itself. Meanwhile, Xerxes trudges north with his dwindling forces. His grand pontoon bridge over the Hellespont still awaits him, though storms have battered it. He must cross quickly before the Greeks rally to cut him off. For a king who once whipped the sea in arrogance, the crossing now tastes of humiliation. He had promised conquest, yet he returns with ashes and shame. His empire remains vast, but a crack has formed in its armor. The Greeks sense this too. For the first time, the possibility of true victory gleams before them. If they can withstand Mardonius and push the Persians fully from their land, they will not only save Greece but redefine themselves. No longer city-states squabbling for dominance, but allies bound by fire and blood. In Athens, the people cling to this hope as they patch their lives together. Markets stir again. Children chase one another among ruins. Farmers return to scorched fields to coax new shoots from the earth. Each act of rebuilding is an act of defiance. The city lives, scarred but unbowed, and every glance at the Acropolis reminds them why they endure. The ruins are not just scars, they are rallying cries. Visitors from other polis gasp at the sight, yet Athenians stand taller beside their blackened stones. They do not hide their wounds, they display them proudly, proof that even empire's fire cannot erase them. Athens burned, they say, and yet here we stand. Across the Aegean, Xerxes returns to Asia, his throne still gilded, his empire still vast, but whispers of Salamis follow him like smoke. The king of kings, humbled by wooden walls. His revenge against Athens, though searing, has failed to break her. Instead, it has forged her into something stronger. And as you walk again through the ruined streets, hearing hammers strike and children laugh amid rubble, you realize that Athens' true victory is not only at Salamis or Plataea, yet to come. It is here, in the choice to endure, to rebuild, to let the scars remain as both memory and promise. The empire of Persia will fade, but Athens, scarred, stubborn and unyielding, will rise from ashes to shape history itself. The year after Salamis passes like a long breath, held too tightly. Athens, though still wounded, watches and waits. The Persian army under Mardonius prowls in northern Greece, its shadow heavy, while Xerxes himself slips back to Asia with the weight of failure pressed into his crown. For the Athenians, survival now depends not just on the sea, but on what comes next, the land battle still to be fought. Winter drapes the ruins in silence. Snow dusts the charred stones of the Acropolis, softening their harsh outlines. Families huddle in makeshift shelters, their breath fogging in the cold. Food is scarce, and many nights pass with stomachs growling louder than the wind. Yet, even hunger cannot crack the spirit hardened by fire. Each dawn, Athenians climb to the blackened temples, laying offerings of bread or oil on stones still scarred with soot. They pray not for comfort, but for endurance. The ruins have become their cathedral, their pain turned into devotion. Spring brings new dangers. Mardonius marches south, hoping to break Greek unity. He sends envoys to Athens with honeyed words, promising to rebuild temples, restore wealth, even honor their gods, if only they will submit. The assembly listens but does not bend. The ruins of the Acropolis loom over their debate, blackened walls reminding them of what Persian promises are worth. When the vote comes, it is unanimous. Athens will not bow. Better ashes than slavery. Enraged, Mardonius advances, seizing what he can. Once again, Athenians evacuate their city, women and children fleeing to Salamis or Troezen, while men ready themselves for war. The ruins are abandoned a second time, left as bait for Persia's fury, and once again, Persian soldiers tramp through Athens' empty streets, setting new fires among the already blackened stones. But the city has nothing left to give. Its spirit is gone, carried in the hearts of its people, and the Persians find themselves torching shadows. The final reckoning comes at Plataea in 479 BCE. There, Spartan hoplites, Athenian warriors, and allies from across Greece unite against Mardonius's army. The clash is brutal, shields locking, spears thrusting, arrows darkening the sky. Dust rises in choking clouds. Cries of men and horses fill the plain. In the struggle, Mardonius himself falls, struck down amid the chaos. His army, once proud, collapses into rout. For the Greeks, Plataea is the answer to Salamis, the final proof that Persia can be defeated not only on sea but on land. Word reaches Athens swiftly. The Persians are broken, their generals slain, their survivors fleeing north in panic. On Salamis, cheers erupt, echoing louder than they did after Salamis. For this is not just reprieve, it is liberation. The war that began with fire now ends with freedom. Persia retreats across the Hellespont, its empire still vast but its pride fractured. Greece, against all odds, has endured. When the Athenians return once more to their city, they walk through ruins now sanctified by victory. The Acropolis still lies gutted, its temples empty husks, its statues broken. Yet no one weeps this time. Instead, they touch the stones reverently, as if greeting old scars on a healed body. Children run among the rubble, laughing, their voices proof that the city's heart still beats. Priests declare the olive tree of Athena sacred anew, its green shoots now taller, stronger, shimmering in the sun. The decision is made. The ruins will stand. The blackened temples are not erased but preserved as memorials, reminders of both suffering and resilience. For decades, Athenians will refuse to rebuild the sanctuaries, leaving the scars visible to all who walk the Acropolis. The message is clear. We endured fire, and we remember. These ruins become part of the city's identity, a testament stronger than marble. And in time, from those ashes, Athens rises higher than before. When peace returns, new temples will crown the Acropolis, the Parthenon itself, gleaming in white marble, a symbol of the city reborn. Philosophers will gather in the agora, sculptors will carve gods from stone, Playwrights will craft dramas that echo through centuries. Democracy will flourish, sharpened by memory of fire and forged in defiance of empire. The ruins of 480 BCE will not be the end of Athens, but the beginning of its greatness. For Persia, the invasion becomes a wound of its own. Xerxes returns to his throne, still ruler of an immense empire, but haunted by the humiliation of Salamis. His subjects whisper of his failure, of wooden walls that mocked his numbers, of a king who whipped the sea yet could not master it. His empire remains vast, but Greece has proven that even the mightiest can be humbled. And you, standing among the ruins, understand what has been forged. The burning of Athens was not destruction, it was transformation. Fire turned marble to ash, but it also hardened resolve, uniting a people who might otherwise have squabbled themselves into weakness. The city lost its stones but found its soul. As night falls, you walk the slopes of the Acropolis. The stars gleam overhead, clear and sharp, and the ruins glow faintly in moonlight. The olive tree sways in the breeze, its leaves whispering like a voice from the goddess herself. You breathe deeply, the air still tinged with smoke, yet fresher than it has been in months. For the first time the city feels quiet, not with despair but with peace. The war has scarred Athens, but scars are not only reminders of pain, they are proof of healing. And in that proof lies reassurance. You close your eyes listening to the soft murmur of the wind through ruins, and let the story fade. The flames of 480 BCE burn no longer, replaced by embers that warm instead of scorch. From those embers Athens will rise again, brighter than before, shaping history in ways Xerxes could never imagine. So rest now. The walls may be blackened, but the people endure. The gods may have watched their shrines burn, but they too endure. And, tomorrow, when the sun rises over the scarred Acropolis, it will shine not on defeat, but on resilience. Sleep easy, because the fire has passed, the sea has spoken, and Athens, though burned, has proven unbreakable. Good night, sweet dreamer.